And by Depeche Mode standards, it's quite sparse, the arrangement. I mean, it appears to be sort of piano-led. You know, okay, you've got this sort of slow rhythm with it, but you've got this sort of gospel-type multi-track vocals going on in the background.
Martin's a big gospel fan, and the melody itself and the lyrics, and I can't even remember how the idea came up, but basically the desk that we had a full studio, flew it out to Spain, and the desk came in a wooden box, and downstairs was this massive garage, and it was cavernous kind of garage, and all the gear was down there, and the idea was like, well, why don't we try and recreate a gospel feel? So there's like myself, the 4 guys in the band, Daryl, who was this band's assistant. Downstairs, we go on the tape machine upstairs, ran downstairs, and we're banging on these wooden boxes, and came up with a rhythm that was then sampled, and I mean, so many, you know, great ideas that started out as like, well, you know, that's never going to work. And then it's pushed through the mince of it is the Depeche way, and you get something that's completely individual. It's great.
It's giving Dave Gahan's lead vocal space to breathe, or at least that, as far as Depeche Mode listeners are concerned, it's perhaps one of the few tracks that are really, up to that point, had allowed his voice to really shine through. And obviously he himself must have been in a very dark place at that time. The whole substance abuse, his life is sort of very different to as it had been in previous Depeche Mode recording sessions. And I guess he probably felt also that the lyrical content of a lot of those songs sort of applied to him.
In terms of him as a personality, I mean, he's lived the life and the depth of experience which enables him to sing those sorts of lyrics and basically put the persona into them.
I've always understood from Martin that he's not writing about his or Dave's personal experience, because sometimes they seem to match so well. That's part of the magic of the band, I think. Even where Martin writes a song that Dave sings, that you think, well, that's just perfect. It must have been, and obviously he writes. He knows that he writes, but the way that Martin describes his songwriting to me is as if it's like a spirit takes him over, and it just a creative thing flows through him, and he's a channel for a piece of songwriting. He doesn't really know how he's done it.
Despite its many problems, Songs of Faith and Devotion arrived on the shelves in March 1993 and became an instant hit, reaching #1 in both the UK and the United States, as well as drawing widespread critical acclaim.
Genius. Genius, best Depeche Mode album ever. And I love lots of them, but that one, head and shoulders for me, above all of them. Still, I'll get goosebumps. Even now, when was it, 16 years ago, whatever it was. And when I hear it live, I get really protective about it as well. When they do it live, if they don't do it quite the way it was in the album, I'll get really upset. Oh, you didn't do that line. And I love it, absolutely love it. It came out at a time when my own creative thing was at an all-time low, and I just churned out, no, it's an absolute piece of shit. And I was really down in the dumps, and I knew that from a creative point of view that I was low, really low down. And then that comes along, and it could make you, it could just crush you completely. You just think, that's it, I'm doing shit and they're doing that, and there's no way I'm ever going to get it back. But for me it didn't. For me it just, again, as Sate the Disease had done a bit earlier, it just opened my eyes to a different way of going about it.
To support the release of Songs of Faith and Devotion, Depeche Mode embarked on the Devotional tour. Complete with a stage set specially designed by long-term collaborator Anton Corbijn, the band were truly at the top of their profession.
Silence, come crashing into my little world.
By 1994, Depeche Mode was considered one of the most significant and influential bands of all time. This was due to the defining darkness and continuing development of the albums Black Celebration, Music for the Masses, Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion, which together cemented the name Depeche Mode forever in music history, not just as the name of a band, but as a style of music in its own right.
I think there are very few bands in the last 25, 30 years when you mention a band's name that it's not just about a few songs. It's kind of a big weighty balloon of influence.
They've done a lot of things to electronic music which for a lot of people over the years have been lessons in how it can be done, and have made so many other people look like amateurs.
This set of 4 albums represented a pinnacle in the band's sound and image, and demonstrated that their unwillingness to remain content constantly transformed their output, while also enhancing and developing electronic music. Despite losing Alan Wilder, Depeche Mode have again progressed and outlasted many of their contemporaries to continue achieving great success.
And to me, Depeche Mode have always been unwilling to just settle into a rut and, churn out hit after hit using the same formula. They've always tweaked it in sometimes subtle ways. I mean, they're not a radically different band from what they were 10 or 20 years ago, but they've been willing to just vary the sound a little bit and move on. And I think that's part of the reason that they're still valid really today, is that there's been a constant flow and evolution to their music.